Hello guys, in this video we will install several cache solutions. So what this video is about is prepare the environment for your local development. Let's say you have an application, you know, that talk to some cache, cache solution, okay? So in our case, the cache solution is memcached, memcached, and redis. Okay, it just happened that for what I do right now, I work on some software products and I have to set up locally my cache solution, right? Depending on the version or anything, I might choose to install this version of memcache or two instances of my memcache or one instance of Redis. So in this case, I just want to create kind of like a local environment for myself to test the application locally so that it would talk to this solution that is also running locally, right? Because in real life, let's say that application with this cache is actually running on some clusters, but I don't want to in the cloud, but I don't want to set up any Kubernetes or any local AWS solutions just to install cache. Also, I don't want to use any remote solution. I want to just install it locally. So this is what this video about, how to install that stuff locally in such a way that it could be manageable, replaceable, easy deletable, configurable, and easy to manage. Okay, so that's the idea. So if you found yourself in a situation like that when you have to test something locally, then this is a good video for you to watch. This is what we'll be talking about here. So what kind of options do we have? Let's say we have an application that has to be run locally, and we have to install memcache, like I said, and redis. Let's say we have to install like one redis and two instances of memcache. And the two instances of memcache could be running on one machine, single machine, same as here, right? So theoretically, what I could do, I could install memcache just locally, without any problem, and Redis also. But let's say if I have another application, application 2, that needs some other cache and some other data, then that port that this memcache or Redis is using will be already taken, and then I'll have to install yet another Redis locally on the same machine, which will be kind of complicated, right? So that's where Docker comes in play. So I have to, what I could do, I could just do the same thing that what I said, but install it to the Docker, okay? The memcache and Redis. But if we go further, there will be like a lot of manual work as well. What is even better than this solution is to use Docker Compose. What is Docker Compose is in the end we will have some kind of YAML file, okay, with bunch of configurations inside, and when we deploy it or when we apply it, it will actually provision everything locally. There are two instances of that cache and one instance of that cache, right? And if we don't like something, we will remove it easily and reconfigure again, okay? So what are the prerequisites for this video? If you want to proceed with that, you have to have already Docker installed, okay? And also might want to install Docker desktop. It's kind of not necessarily, but kind of visually nicer to have Docker running local and visually. Otherwise, you will need to do this Docker PS, right, and see what's going on. Anyway, we will use this and that approach. So let us go and create something. We will install two caches. Let me create a new test application. Go with test2, okay? Test2, and here we'll create a new Docker Compose YAML. In this Docker Compose file, start writing something like that. Version 3, it's a version of Docker Compose services. And like I said, we will have, let's say, redis, but we will have like, we'll name it. Theoretically, we could have like 2 redises, right? But we will use like 1 redis. The image of the redis image will be redis, just redis. You know, maybe this is not the best editor I choose here. Anyway, image redis. What else? The container name. What is container name? It's actually when we take redis, it will download this image redis from internet, from Docker Hub, and once it starts it, it will name it with the name, and the name is redis 1. Then we know that we have to expose ports, and these ports will be, let's say, 5, and this will be the port exposed to the 75, and the standard port number is actually this one. We could actually use volume if you want. So this way we specify where to store the Redis data. Okay, and we're actually mapping it like that. So this is where the data will be stored, and this one where the config file will be stored. Good. Basically, it's gonna be pretty much the same. That's a mapping to the Docker on the Docker machine. Basically, this DC Redis. This is where it's located. That's how we do it. The command. You don't need to remember this. You probably can take this configuration from somewhere, from the Docker website. But I'm just doing this manually in this case, so to you to see and pay attention. Redis-conf. So that's how it's gonna work. This is Redis 1. This is a Redis server, and let's add 2 memcache services. So the first service is the Redis 1. Memcached cached 1 will be our memcache. The image is memcached, also same name. Then ports the same way, we'll just map 11311, and the standard port for it is 11211 on this right now. And the second memcache 2, let's see. The image to be the same. Okay, memcached, same image. We can pass some environment here. It's like that. Memcached size. This is the maximum cache size. Like, I guess it's a megabytes, but I'm not sure. It's some kind of like a default. We can double check on that later. Port. So the port, there is a trick. So that we will use same port as we used before, but 2, right? So 11311, and here is 11312, and it will be mapped internally to the same port. That's a configuration basically. So right now we have this configuration. We have Redis 1 instance, we have a memcached 1 instance, we have memcached 2 another instance, so 2 instances of memcache. They both take its life, let's say, from this image, and this works on that port, and another works on another port. Here we choose to pass some environment variable, just to show that we can do it. For the Redis, we also specify the volumes where to store all this configuration and the command. Actually, I'm not sure we need this, but that's how usually it is defined. We have double check on it. Let's see if it works. Okay, so we're gonna save it. And now the next step to check if it works is basically to run it. It's like that. Docker compose up minus d minus d. So the way it works is just looking for this Docker compose YAML file, and we'll try to spin it. Okay, so we have a problem. A YAML file line 2 mapping values are not allowed in this context. So let's see what's going on. So we choose to write everything manual just to see what it's like. Okay, that's why we're gonna have a couple of mistake exceptions, etc. Nothing works from first run. Yeah, sure. So you see this image, this is the YAML file, so it should be with indents like that. Otherwise it fails, which makes sense. Mapping values are not allowed in this context. Again, I hope that you are doing this with me, then it makes sense. Otherwise, it might be boring to watch my struggles. Additional probe environment is not allowed here, right? Okay, let's see what's going on. Okay. So I see what I want to see right. Here we go. So what we just did, we just launched these two types of services, redis and two of memcache. Docker, PS. That's exactly what we did 18 seconds ago, and everything is mapped as it should be. Why it's important actually? Because we do have just one config file. That's important. Cat docker compose, right? So we have this file, and this is like a one configuration that we keep. That basically the advantage of the compose, because everything is in composite is just stored in one config file. And if we want to remove everything, going to be easy. I'll show how to do it right now. So one of the way to do it is actually this is our Docker desktop, and that's why I'm saying that it's kind of nice to have UI, because we could see this Docker PS, everything is here, but with the UI it's kind of easier in a way. And this configuration, you see, actually knows that we're in test2. So this test2 is this folder, and it knows that it's related to this YAML file. So let's say if by some reason I rename this file, then I will not able to even stop or delete it because it's kind of like connected, right? So if I want to remove everything, so it's easy like that, bam, removed. And then if I want to come to start it again, then I just start it and it's here. So all your configurations are there. So imagine if you have one configuration with test2, then you have a configuration with test3, test4, etc. And they will be all run in the groups, which is kind of useful, right? For testing purposes, let's say, want to simulate environment, dev environment, QA environment, etc. So this compose, nice way to go. Let's keep it running for now. And let's switch to another step of our. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope it was useful for you guys, and see you in the next video. Thanks.